This is the Bar Stewards Enquiry.
Right? You're talking absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
In what way?
You were an underachiever in life. I saved your bacon one time. You were gone.
You handled that well. I couldn't save you. But you did the right thing.
But that's why you don't know anything about racing, John.
I didn't say I do.
Right?
I'm saying that...
What have you contributed to racing? You're one of these take-out merchants. Take out all you can.
Inquiry Sunday sermon. My name's Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk and also my partner in crime, discussing some events of this week and hot topics is John Lang of John Joe's Blogspot on Facebook.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, John. We've got an interesting show tonight. I'd like to just cover off yesterday with the fantastic win for Rachel Blackmore, the first female ever to win a Grand National. Very pleasing to see racing on the front pages. I never think that it really matters that we're on the front pages because I don't know who we're trying to please. Like in terms of, like you either get into racing or you don't, or you want to ban it. That's that's my take on it. So even though people are waxing lyrical that we're on every Sunday paper and about Rachel being the first woman, I'm not actually sure what long-term benefits it brings to the sport other than that we haven't had about 7 or 8 horses drop on the floor in the feature event. What's your take on yesterday's event?
Well, I'd take issue with the fact you were saying she's the first woman to win it. I go back a bit further. I remember Liz Taylor winning it on the Pie in 1944.
Liz Taylor on the Pie.
Great result for racing, really. Can't knock it. You can't knock De Bromhead either. I mean, he's having a season of all seasons, isn't he? I mean, first and second in the Gold Cup, first and second in the National.
Yep.
I ended up backing his runner-up at 180 in the National.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that they backed it to beat Tiger Roll last time, and Rachel fell off it. But
yeah,
about the only time she hasn't looked like she got Bostic in her pants. But there you go. Delighted for her. She works hard. She's a cracking jockey, and probably the best result racing could have hoped to get out yesterday. Apart from maybe that horse that got killed, also walking away from it, that would have been a plus as well. But
yeah, for sure. No, I think it's been a fairly successful meeting for racing. I think casualties have been kept to a minimum. Some years it's worse than others, and I think they've done a good job with the watering. Despite, obviously, you can argue from a punter's perspective, it probably didn't help Cloth Cap that much, which, like you pointed out on Friday's show, wasn't really a plus, them sticking 6 mils on the night before didn't help punters one bit there. But as I said, from a safety perspective, they've certainly done it. But again, regarding future nationals and things like that, if we're forever having to pander to media about, the year again it happens when you get the inevitable bad year of fatalities, which, if you're doing the martingale system, we're due, because we haven't had hardly any deaths in the race for God knows how long. And it's like you know what's going to come if we get a real bad year, and I think that's why it just annoys me, because they're all waiting like vultures to pounce, and I just fear for the future of big races like the National. Really, in society how we are now, I'll be amazed if we're still running Grand National in 30 years' time. I don't know what you think.
I think one of the biggest problems is that the media embrace this water at all costs culture. Water ground is safe ground, blah, blah, blah. You will not ever be able to find a stat relating injuries on watered ground. Yeah, it always goes down as an injury on good to firm or good. They never mention how much water's gone on it, whether it's loose on top, anything like that, which is their cop-out. They have nothing on injuries caused by overwatered ground.
Yeah.
No one asks this question in the press. It was a very interesting analysis in the Post, I thought, today. The ground was described as similar to last year. Yeah, I think the time was 14 seconds slower.
Fair
How
point,
is
Tom.
that similar when Jet went off as though it was a 7 furlong race?
Yeah.
They haven't chased Jet, he hadn't run the guts out of them, and yet they finished a furlong behind last year's lot on what is supposedly, well, unquestioningly described by a professional reporter as similar ground. It's not.
No, I think that's. I mean, I was on about the Times Hall meeting. How some media pundits, on ITV, some people on Twitter were saying, "Oh, we need to look for fast ground horses," and I was just like, "What on earth?" You know, the times were like slow all week. There was no blinding times, and so there was no quick ground. It was probably what they originally said it was, which was on the soft side of good to soft, maybe sort of good to soft if you like, but it was to me a bit slower than good to soft on some of the times. Grade 1 runners, all right, they might not be true grade 1s, but they're running 15, 16 seconds slow, and that, that's not what top class animals can do on that kind of ground. If it was good, they'd be doing a lot quicker times than that. But yeah, it's a sore point, and I know it's a sore point for us going forward for the flat season, because we hate it when they chuck too much on during the summer months, and you end up then you have because they've put too much on. It ends up being good to soft, or God forbid you get a shower that's not been forecast, and you've had it. It just ruins the entire day for everybody really that's punted, because ground is absolute key. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's fabulous that Rachel's done that. I'm very pleased. We move on to the sore subject of basically the Irish domination, and this has happened over the last 5 years. And I did put a post on Twitter last night regarding the stats of the top Irish trainers. I listed them. There's plenty of them, so I'm not going to say who they are. You can check on Twitter if you want to find out who they are. Now, since 2017, if you have £100 on each on Betfair, every single Irish trained runner in Class 1 and Class 2 races, you'd be £70,000 up. If you have £100 at Industry SP, so that's with the bookies not taking a price, you'd still be 25 grand up in the last 5 years. So what is happening here? Because the market usually catches up with things like this. All of a sudden, if you see someone that's training lots of winners, right, we'll put him at short prices, or but 5 years, you've made absolute fortunes and keep on making fortunes backing said Irish trainers. John, have you any thoughts what it could be?
I think we may just be in a situation where we're getting out-trained. We've had it before. We had Vincent O'Brien managing to become champion trainer over here, I think it was 1977, with about 40 horses in his yard. We know for a fact most of the big purchases are going and being trained in Ireland now. A lot of our supposedly top trainers are, I hesitate to say the word rich kids, because I mean, like Sir Paul Nichols, his father is a policeman, so and he's done well. But there's quite a lot from money families that probably had a lot handed to them. And whereas some Irishmen are genuinely horsemen of the blood, they understand horses inside out, That's why Coolmore pack the key positions with horse families that go back generations, and they help manoeuvre people. Coolmore have helped manoeuvre Dubai every step of the way. They're the world leaders, and while we maybe should be doing better, again, you can look at some of our top people. Nicky Henderson's 70, just how motivated and competitive is he, really?
Yeah.
Does he get up on the morning, booting himself up the backside saying, come on, I've got to beat these 5 Irishmen? Or does he get up on the morning thinking, right, I'm still doing well, I'm getting training face for all these horses, and it's not bad life, this. I don't think the desire burns as bright amongst our trainers as it does amongst the Irish lads.
Yeah.
I think they're desperately keen to do well, and they'll move mountains to try and do well. Whereas our lots, if it comes off, it comes off. But as long as they come home safe and sound, which is all you hear, isn't it, this week?
I certainly think there's a potential, like competitiveness-wise, the Irish are definitely more competitive than what some are, I think. So I'm certain of that. I've listed 4 things for you that I believe are on the table and should be talked about as a contribution to why this is happening. You make a good point there about competitiveness, but that's sort of related here to what I'm about to say. So, race planning. The Irish seem to be very, very, very good at getting the horses off the right marks in the right races. They've got that absolute long-term plan to do well in the springtime at the festivals, where they know exactly where they want to be, where this horse wants to be in its preparation, what mark they want, everything really.
Absolutely.
And so that's the first thing. Now, you've got to say substance, and I'm not saying illegal substances, because they could be legal substances. They're basically not on the ban. If you're not on the ban list, then nothing illegal. But there could be some kind of artificial help here. And the reason for this, we've got absolute real life examples of this where, we have now at Stormy Island. Nichols could not get it to do anything, and as soon as it's back with Willie, it's back to the old, mid 150s. And so either some might argue, say, well, that could just be the horse that likes the old surroundings. But it's pretty damning when you look at the entire Sullivan bloodstock that couldn't, lift a leg for Nichols in comparison, to what they did for Willie. And then obviously Stormy Island going back there. You're dead inside if you didn't want that to win on its reappearance for Willie, just to sort of half prove a point that, look at Henry de Bromhead 5 years ago. He couldn't train Ivy to run up a wall. He was nowhere. He was literally winning grade 3s at Clonmel and that's it. He was not on the big stage. In fact, I checked back and he'd barely have a festival runner. He'd be lucky if he had 3 runners on the week. And now he's back. He's definitely up there with Big Gord and Wicked Willie. So I'm thinking here that there's got to be something. I've no idea. I've no evidence. I've nothing. But let's put it this way: it's only started happening in the last 5 years. So I'm trying to add things all together. Brings us on to our first question, the next one, which is handicapping, and Quentin Franks, who's an avid listener, says, gambled on winners. Are they treated more harshly by the handicapper because the money has been down rather than what they've achieved on the bare form book? So what's your thoughts on that, John?
I've no numbers to hand, but my gut feeling is, by God, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
I always seem to notice that one where you could say they've had it right off And then you get on the following shows and you think, God, we haven't missed him, you know. And I think there's an element of slapping people down for having to organise a gamble. You know, it's still frowned on, isn't it? You know what I mean? And they don't like it. You know, they don't want you to do it again. So they're going to give 6 for luck, probably.
Well, going back to earlier this week, Hinchy on Twitter, who owns 5 Star Getaway with Christian Williams, he was moaning terribly at the handicapper, saying, putting my horse up £15 for beating Niven 5.5 lengths is a disgrace, which I agree with. You know, and that's sort of I mean, I don't agree. The thing is, though, you can't have your cake and eat it. You know, these lads have got it off 97 or whatever they got it off. They've won 3 races. They've won the big handicap final. They've probably got as much prize money as they could get out of the horse. Probably landed lots of bets. And then it's like a bit like after you've had your cake and eat, it's like moaning that, you know, you ain't got a free taxi home. And to me, that's where. So to answer Quentin, we're both in agreement on this, that yes, they will get more harshly treated because the handicapper can see you've had his pants down, and that's, you know, that's not playing the game. Well, it is playing the game, but it's been a bit too much. And I think that's where the problem lies with our demise at these big festivals, especially like, you know, in the handicaps, because when we used to win some of the handicaps, we're now finding ourselves like literally just absolutely nowhere. Hence the number of finishes in the Grand National in the first 4. We've got 3 in the first 14. We've got 1 in the top 11. You know, it's clearly our horses are punished too harshly by our handicappers, and the reason that is because they use an absolutely pathetic sort of sliding scale rule. Oh, you've won at Kelso by 15 lengths. Well, you're going up a stone, you know, for beating absolute northern scrap. And then we've got a lot of artificially rated high horses. I think everyone can see that. You know, we've got many horses in fact, Hendo, Popeye was moaning the other day that he's got too many 140 plus. I'd say that's probably a bit of him that's kind of, you know, I think, but the thing is, we're going to have to get to a stage then, if the handicappers are punishing our horses like they do, and like with big risers, are we going to see a time when we're going to have to start stopping horses like throughout a season, and then punters aren't going to be happy? You know, what do you think? Do you think that's a scenario that could happen, say, next year, when British trainers think, well, sod this, I may as well have 3 absolute dropouts? You know, I don't know.
There's a lot of horses where you would look at their figures and you would say, it's going to have to be an 18-month project now to get this down to where we want.
For sure.
You know, they are on inflated ratings. I know when I come to rate races, when I'm reviewing a card and things like that, there's not many races where I really find that the winners run to its rating, even never mind exceeding it. Because when you look back at what they've beat, there's always been reasons why the defeated horses haven't hit the marks, you know what I mean? The second mate missed the break, had a wide trip, got blocked twice on the bend. So how could you say that's its mark and then you can justify putting the winner up fair? You can't.
Yeah.
You know. So we have got horses on ridiculously high marks. You know. I mean, we'll have a situation in August where the Eber will probably have a £7 spread in the entire field.
Yeah.
Can't be right.
No, there's so many horses that's rated. Say, on the flat, for example, you'll have a lot of horses rated from 95 to 108, and in that bracket, there'll be absolutely very, very few well handicapped horses, and that's because we just like to just inflate them very, 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 very quickly. And as I said, with poor Cloth Cap, he's obviously not been at his best in the national, and he's now got a race of 162 next year. It's like, well, that's absolute rubbish. I mean, on the Kelso, I went back and handicapped it myself, and I've got Cloth Cap tops at about 156 tops for Kel. £8 even a bit harsh, given what I don't think nothing run the race. I think it's about 14 fences and pulled hard at the back, and it just nothing ran. Definitely Red was fat and needed the run. Nothing ran the race, and you've ended. He's probably not had to do anything. He's probably not improved, on anything he's achieved previously. But yet the handicapper thinks, it's a stone. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I think that's the problem we've got long term. I don't think we've got good enough handicappers. I think our handicappers are poor. I think they haven't got. It's like you're not paying them enough. I mean, it's a job, really.
It's like every other department at the PHA, though, isn't it? They're not passionate about it. They will not miss the lunch. They won't work late.
No.
The stuff that, it's all about the salary, the car, the pension.
Yeah.
And not rocking the boat.
I mean, like you say, in the national game, how many handicap chasers where you'll see an horse hit a couple, pull up, there's very few sometimes that run their actual races, yet the handicapper every single time will assume that the first, second and third horses home have all run the races and put the winner up 9, the runner up 3, the third maybe £1 or £2 or whatever. And, none of the first 3 might have run the races. The time might be terrible. They've all made mistakes. They've all pulled hard. It's a nonsense to start putting horses up stupid amounts for. Not every race is the same. Some races, they deserve it. Others, it's just miles out. And that's because they haven't got the ability. The ability of them is not good enough to handicap properly. And that's why we're in a sliding scale rule of thumb where if you win by 15 lengths, it's just basic rubbish. You're going to go up 10. You can be safe at least 10, maybe 12, whatever he sees you on. But you're not going up 5, are you, winning 15?
You just say to people as a warning, really. Don't come 6th in the Hunt Cup because you're getting no prize money and you're going up for.
This is it. It's like, I just think that's where the BHA need to be looking. Like, I think they need better skilled people to do the job. I'm putting myself forward, but I'm not on their pay. That's what's needed. More skill to actually work it out properly, which they don't do. So that moves us on so basically the Irish are just beating his hands down on everything, I think, from buying better horses, which I agree, because I read Henderson in the Racing Post the other day, and he was on about in Ergamine that it was at Tom Lacey's, and apparently it went for its point to point, and we in 5 days, obviously big Irish owner had picked it up, or whoever bought it had picked, and it's gone to Willie Mullins. We in 5 days private sale. They're quite sharp. So I agree. I've been on Twitter and people are saying, it's not just magic carrots. I agree. It's probably just a bit artificial help, but there's certainly some of that in it. Because I can't have some of the performances are just eye-poppingly good on the big day. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Right, next question. A funny one from John Nolan. He's quite a funny chap. He likes your sirens when you get sirens outside your house. I think.
SWAT team.
Yeah, SWAT team. And he says, who do the panel fancy to win next autumn's racecourse gallop between Shishkin and Altior? John.
Well, I think given Popper's bias, really, I mean, he's probably giving up big reports about Altior, so I think I'd have a favour on Altior.
he's out. Where is Altio? What's he doing? Has anyone heard anything? Is he off to Punchestown?
I think his next engagement is a boat race.
Yeah, we've seen him once this season, Kempton, and then that's it. It's weird.
It's a good job he's got plenty of time with the house, isn't it? There's no rush.
Well, I accept that the ground was wrong, and Sandown, and
he's only 11, isn't he? He's got so much more to offer.
Yeah, Hunter Chasers.
It could be, couldn't it? You could see him in the Fox Hunters at Aintree in 4 years' time.
Yeah. So interesting question that, John, but very, very pertinent. We might see you both about a couple of times before next season's festival combined.
Might say one of the Minsters Erowich.
On to our punting pal, the Happy Hammer. They won today, I think they have. So they'll be happy again. Major Jumbo on Wednesday, John. Nick Davis. He's a good judges, Nick, and this is 16-1. And he says, how far? How far does this win?
Well, I think a lot depends on how quickly Kid gets him out, really. I wouldn't cast aspersions on Nicholas's selection by any means if he thinks it's hard not to say it's not well in. You only have to go back 6 runs. He's running off 107. Here we are off 98,
With Big John Shinnick taking 7 off, John.
That's it, You're talking a net 91, aren't you? So,
yeah.
Really, we're 16 pound up with slaves.
The kid can definitely ride. I know this.
Yeah.
I know he's only 3 wins from 104 rides. We looks rubbish, but I think generally he's been riding all the not-offs in Ireland when he was over there.
The thing is, there could be a lot of pace on in this race. I see the Kilt's well represented, the Desert Safari that won last time, It's hard to say when you don't really see the makeup of the race just yet. Look, I couldn't put it off.
Yeah, certainly it's very well handicapped, Nick, and I'm sure you'll be looking at that 16-1 with beady eyes. Because knowing you'll be the betting shops are open tomorrow. The betting shops are open. You can pile around London and get £2 a shop on.
Nick will have a convoy of Ford Transits laid on in the morning. There'll be a betting transit that'll head up the parade, and then behind that there'll be the chill out transit with the house music blaring and the settee in the back. And then the final transit will have the 4-litre bottles of water for them all to rehydrate and then go back up into the front transit. And he'll have that as a rolling system all Wednesday morning, I would have thought.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, Nick, I wish you well with your pick there and hope you get on. But I've told everybody now, and I hope viewers, all listeners know now, and they'll be like going online and knocking it into 10s. Disgraceful behaviour. Julian Wilson would be turning in his grave.
Julian Wilson would be blocking it.
Be blocked.
And Andy would be penning an awful letter to the Racing Post.
He'd be telling Big John Shennick that...
Find as much trouble as you can.
There'll be no career for you, Sonny, unless you get this out the back.
If you get this bait, you can play for Newmarket Trainers next week. Third man, both ends.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on. We're coming towards the end of the show. I hope you've had a good chuckle at some of the things we've discussed. Ian Davis. I love Ian Davis's rants, and I'm sort of leading into the next phase of this show with his rant. And he says, nice of the Irish to allow British trained horses to finish 6th, 12th and 14th in the National yesterday. Fortunately, the National Hunt gives way as the flat takes centre stage this week with the Craven meeting, followed by Newbury. Well, Newbury's now Sunday. Now Buffalo's on funerals mess that up. And so he can forget about being ritually humiliated by our friends across the Irish Sea. But he says, hold on. What's that dirty great big arc on yonder horizon, heading towards us across said waters? Packed to the rafters with blue bloods and apparently steered home by some bloke who is a dead ringer for Harry Potter. John, are you looking forward to this spring with older Aidan trying to win everything we've got?
Funnily enough, I am really, because I've taken a bit of a shine to a couple of his, and whereas normally the just background noise coming out their 2-year-old careers, this year, as I say, the horses like High Definition, Joan of Arc that ran today. But I'm just very, very interested to see how they progress this year, and so I'm quite looking forward to him sending his big battalions over and seeing how they get on, because I think some of the home fires might still burn bright. I mean, Guston's got a fair team. There's a cantankerous old pensioner on the Berry Road that's made quite a good start to his season as well. I don't think it's going to be one-way traffic anyway.
Good stuff. We're very much looking forward to the Craven meeting this week. Starts on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I've got that right, Anna John. I didn't want to get it for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the beer chamber.
Well, if another one pops to close, it might be Princess Alice's funeral or something, and we'll end up running it on frigging Boxing Day, won't it?
Yeah. Well, the good news is we're going to do, if you're not bored of us yet, which it's a big ask, I know, we're doing a preview show, a special one-off preview show for the Craven meeting itself, where me and John will be looking at a lot of the key Craven meeting action, with any bets or eye catchers that we think you should look out for. Obviously, it's difficult not knowing the exact ground draws. Say on the Thursday, we won't have the declarations, but we'll give it our best shot in highlighting any potential bets prices that's available, etc. Maybe even come up with the odd sort of anti-post bet before the prices go.
Me tracker's like Katie Price's bra at the minute. It's struggling to contain everything. Honestly, they're bursting out all over at the minute. So.
Yeah, what a sight that would be.
I'll be glad to get them off my chest, shall we say?
So don't miss that. That we'll be putting that out around 1900 hours, 1930, something like that, GMT, 24-hour clock here. So don't miss that tomorrow evening, me and John going through the Craven action. Right, to finish the show off, we've got the Jimmy Lindley Lovely Hands feature, which is now back in full swing. Now we've got the flat season going. And Quentin Frank sent one in, and I'm going to mention it because I thought I agreed. I thought it was eye-catching. He says Carter Cowboy was really, really not at the races at Redcar at the Lurkle earlier this week. Richard Fay's horse. Totally agree. Absolute float up. So Carter Cowboy, definitely an interesting spot there, Mr. Quentin Franks. Myself, I spotted one at Gowran Park. It wasn't really, this is a bit obvious, but I've got timing data behind it. It's a horse called Powerful Aggie, and it's trained by the Baby Joseph. Ran at Gowran Park on Thursday, 8th of April. She's been missing the break. She's now got a handicap mark. She's been flying home late, and everyone can sort of spot them. But I've got the timing data, and she's done some pretty decent splits. And I think she'll be a lot better than what the mark. I mean, hopefully she'll get mid-70s. I think she can better that. She's a nice filly. That's Powerful Aggie. I spotted at Gowran on the Thursday, the 8th of April. So that's my eye catcher. John, anything take your eye maybe to last week, or did you see anything you liked today?
Endlessly, David O'Meara's again. They're really campaigning this like they don't give a monkeys whether it wins or not, but it'll probably turn up at York in May over 12 furlongs. It'll finally get the right ride for the conditions, and it's definitely got some poundage in hand, this thing, but at the minute they're running entirely unsuitable races.
Yeah.
Spencer gave it absolutely no chance first time up this year. Ran the other night at Wolves. Exactly the same outcome, really. I mean, they'd hiked it up in trip, but that was a load of cobblers. It can win over 12 furlongs, and once he gets a decent size pair with some pace to run at, it'll definitely be winning.
Right, endlessly. That might do better, like you said, John, away from gas pits like Wolverhampton. Yeah, so brilliant. So we've 3 there. 3 for Jimmy Lindley this week. Endlessly for John. Powerful Aggie for me, and 1 listener eye catcher that I'm also going to include, the Quentin Franks Carter Cowboy. So that's the 3. Right, don't forget to join us tomorrow for the Craven meeting preview, where we can bore you to tears and tip more losers like we did on Saturday. So that's all from me and John for the sermon. Hope you enjoy. Bye for now.